Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So, so user event script. So as the name itself, specifies that this is a script type which will be used in some sort of an event, like when you save a record, right? When you submit a record, when you open a record, some sort of events, right? So user
Mhm.
event script is primarily used when there is a event based or event based function or functionality we have to introduce. Let's say if there is a logic you have to build when a record is saved, if there's a logic we need to build when a record is loaded, right? So these
Mhm.
sort of if on these sort of events is where you use user event script. Now user event script is a server side script. So I'll just go a little back and I'll take a minute about this. So Suite script is categorized into two major categories. One is client side script and second is server side script. So client side scripts are the ones which triggers or runs on the client browser side. I mean, on the client machine or on the browser basically.
Okay.
And so that is client script. And then server side scripts are the ones which which runs or executes on the on the actual NetSuite server, right?
Okay.
So we understand this basic flow, right? You have your client machine and we have this NetSuite server. So there's a request
Mhm.
and response sort of a connection. Request goes from machine to the server and then response comes back. So these server side script execution happens on the NetSuite server, and where the actual database commit happens. So a user event script is one of those server side scripts, and as I mentioned, this will be used in some sort of an event. Now, user event script is categorized, or I would say there are three functions which are there in user event script. One is before load, second is before submit, and third one is after submit. Now, before load is the one which will be triggered as soon as the page is loaded. So let's say if I go and open a sales order page, this before load function will be the one which will be triggered and executed first as soon as that particular form or record or page is loaded. Now, before submit is the one which triggers before the actual database commit happens. So let's say if we have and we are creating a record, and let me open a sales samples transaction record so that we know it better. So let's say if I'm creating a sales order, so now as soon as I clicked on transaction sales and enter sales order, right? So as soon
Mhm.
as this forms loads, so before load function will be the first one which will be executed. So if there is a user event script which is deployed on sales order object or sales order record, then when we open a new record or edit an existing record based on the context, like based on the context type, we have defined in the script. If we are defining on a new create or only on edit, based on whatever is defined in the script, before load function will be the one which is triggered. So if there is any user event script which is there on user sales order record, since this page is loaded already, the before load function would have been executed by now.
Okay.
Now, as we enter all that information, everything, and then when we click on save at the end, so the first function after clicking on save, which triggers, is before submit and then after submit. Now, difference between before submit and after submit is, as we click on this save button here, right?
Mhm.
Then there is a request then there is a request goes to the actual NetSuite server, right? And all this data is all this data is actually traveling or transmitting to the NetSuite server, and then this goes to the actual NetSuite database and the commit happens.
Yeah.
That
Before
that is
what you're telling me is a lot of validation happens before submit. So when you try to, let's say, when you try to put in a rate in that field, maybe it might be doing some validation there in that before submit event.
that is one case. Yes, you I mean, not only validation. If there is a logic we need to put in place to populate some additional field values or do some logic like calculations or anything, or perform some validations or any sort of that logic which we need to do before the actual database commit happens will be put in before submit. And if there is a scenario where we need to put any additional logic, be it validation or any calculation or any formula, which we need to execute or we want to execute after the database commit happens.
Okay.
Then we'll go with after submit.
Yeah, Akhil, that means like it's before submit, before saving the database, right?
Before submit is before saving to the database, yes.
Yes.
And after submit is after, after submit is after saving to the database.
It means like after submit means after saving the record.
After saving the record in the database, actual Netsuite database, yes.
Yes.
Now
can we call an API from before submit to get details from somewhere else?
Call an API as in we need to get information from about any other record or any other system altogether.
Can be both.
Yeah, we can do that. We can so these are all the topics, Shrikant, which we'll cover once we we have an additional topic about linking one script from another. So from user event we can call RESTlet, we can call MapReduce script, schedule script, or anything, right? Right. So when you're calling, like when you're saying we need to call any other system, we can call it through REST APIs, right? So we can call a RESTlet and RESTlet will be executed and so on, right?
Correct.
So we can certainly do that. Now what I'm trying to mention here is these are the basics, like this is how these functions are defined and this is how we use it. Now the major thing we need to understand is like where because before submit and after submit both have similar functionality. It's just that one will be executed before commit happens and the other one will be executed after commit happens. But we can put exactly same logic. They work in the exact same fashion, and you can do anything on that record. Now the major thing which one as a developer has to keep in mind is is the situation, like where to use before submit and where to use after submit, because you can build same logic using both of these functions. Now let me put a scenario in front of you guys, and I want you guys to respond what would be the right function. Okay, so let's say if I have an integration in place between Salesforce and NetSuite, example. Okay, so we have an integration. Sales order is coming from Salesforce to NetSuite. Okay, so there's an integration. We have any middleware tool for that matter, right? Be it Boomi or MuleSoft or anything. So what happens is, now on the NetSuite side, I am using that sales order information. As soon as the sales order is there in NetSuite, I have some sort of fields which I need for revenue recognition purpose. Okay, let's say I have some custom fields. I'm getting let's say if I have rate and quantity, right? So I have rate and quantity here, and I have amount here. Based on these three fields, I have some logic, and I have to derive some additional fields and which I need for revenue recognition purpose. Okay.
Okay. Yep.
This is a hypothetical situation.
So we can use either before submit or what was the first one?
Before submit and after submit, right?
What was
before load? Before load is before load is entirely different, because we need to we use it when just to initialize something, right? Yeah. If there is a need for you to initialize or default some field values or default some field types like display types and all, that is when we use before load. So now, now the question is,
definitely we should use before submit.
No, I have not finished my question yet. Sorry.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So we have quantity, rate, and amount, and based on these three fields, we are getting this field information from Salesforce. Based on these three fields, I have some logic, and I'm deriving some field values which I need for revenue recognition purpose.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the only criteria I have from the business side is that I'm doing it, I have to build that logic using user event script. As soon as the sales order is created, I am deriving that, building that logic and deriving the additional fields. Now, the only clear instruction we have from the business side is that whatever happens, whatever we need for revenue or recognition purpose or any other purpose, we should not stop order from syncing to NetSuite. Okay. Our order should still be created even if there is any issue in the script.
Okay.
Let's say if we get information, our logic fails or anything happens, right? If let's say if rate quantity is in a format, but our logic isn't correct, or something is breaking, but we need to make sure that our sales order is created in NetSuite. We should not stop the order creation in NetSuite.
Sure.
Even though our logic script fails. Okay. Now, this is a clear instruction. Now, in this case, based on your understanding, what do you think is the right function? Should we go with before submit or after submit?
After submit.
Okay, your response after submit. What about you, Kishore?
Yes. Sorry, Aki, can you repeat the question?
No, in this scenario where I don't want the order integration, or order should still be created in NetSuite, even though our script fails. So in this case, what should be the right function to use?
So before submit.
Okay, yours is before submit. Shrikant, do you mind explaining why you think it after submit is better?
So the business scenario is even after creating the sales order, sales order can be created. So in that scenario, you are adding everything into the database. Only validation they wanted is after the fact that after the sales order is created, you just check whatever the rate calculation is. So and then maybe once it hits the database, you can show it on the sales order screen, saying that this might be a wrong calculation or whatever it is.
Correct. Yeah, that's actually absolutely correct, Shrikant. So Kishore, as I mentioned, right, after submit function is used and it triggers once the database commit happens. So in this scenario, what we want, that sales order should be created, which means that information is coming, the order record is created, and the commit is done. Like it is created in database, and then we want our logic to trigger, right? So in this case, the ideal function would be after submit, so that our logic triggers. There is no issue. Even if it fails, the order is still created in NetSuite.
Fine.
Right. So these are the scenarios where one has to understand and utilize or derive or write the correct function. So this is one such scenario, right? Otherwise, you can build the same logic using both functions. It's just the business case which matters. Okay, so now
so a quick question now. Okay. So are these only 3 events on the suite script? Do you have different form types where there are different functions or different events?
No, in user events there are only 3 predefined functions. So we don't you cannot create any additional functions. You can maybe rename them, like instead of before load, before load is a standard name, right? So let me do one thing before I explain that. So that
actually, if I'm jumping too fast, or into things, just let me know. I don't want to hamper the whole training process because Kishore might be. I'm a little bit familiar with the event side of things, programming. But Kishore, if I'm asking some questions which are not pertaining to, or if you are covering somewhere else, so you can just rename the function or event.
Yeah, so that's what I was coming to. I'm just putting a small syntax here. Okay. So now, what I was trying to mention here is, in user event, we have these three functions. So one is before load, second is before submit, and third one is after submit, right? Now, these are the only three functions which are there available in, so user event script. Now, at the end, if you see the entire syntax, at the end, we have this return statement. I have already talked about this in client script, but I'd like to mention it again. So this return statement here is basically a mapping. Okay, it's a mapping between the actual function name and the script function name. Okay, so if I want to call it as, instead of before load, I want to call it as XYZ, I can call it as XYZ and I can map it to before load. So now what a script will understand is that before load function is used in the script and it is named as XYZ. So they have, so script or the Netsuite, script execution engine will try this or will consider this XYZ function as before load function and will execute it accordingly. So this mapping is what matters. We can keep any function name we want, but if we define the right mapping here, that is what is needed.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got it. So now I understood. So there is only one script. I was thinking you have to define three different scripts, for one for before load, one for before submit, and after submit. Okay. So it is only you write everything in one and execute. Okay. Okay.
Correct. So it is one single script. These are three different functions of a script. So it is like, standard object-oriented programming. You have modular structure, function-wise, right? And now based on our business need, we, if we need only one function, if we're using only one function, in the return statement, you will define only one function. If we are using two, you define those two, or if you're using all three, we define all three here. Okay. That's what matters, right?
Yeah, just
if there is an additional function, because this is a standard programming language, right? Let's say if there is a function I have to calculate something, like calculate price. Now, what we are doing, let's say in this function is, I am simply, there's an additional logic to calculate some prices, which I'm calling from before submit function.
Okay.
So this is a basic programming fundamental, right? You have, instead of writing entire logic in a function, you divide it into modular structure, put it in a different function, and then call it. So this function is an additional function which is called or being called inside before submit. So we don't have to map it here. Here in return statement, the mapping will only be there for these three functions. Even if we are writing an additional function which are being used internally and should only be used inside any of these three functions. We cannot have any additional function, basically.
So will there be a compiler when you write the code?
When you say compiler,
so let's say, for example, let's take this example as a function in calculate price. Okay. So you write this function, but you're not calling it from any of these functions, right? Before load or before submit or after submit. Does it throw in warning saying
no, it won't. No, there won't be any compilation error because the definition is correct. But if you're not calling it from here, you're not even using it, right? What are you doing inside this function?
That's why I said, a warning saying that
there won't be any compilation error. It's just that there will nothing happen. Nothing will happen because of this function. There's no execution happening.
So, for example, the opening and closing arguments, right? If I miss somewhere,
that will definitely be you will get an error. The syntax is not correct, or parenthesis is missing, or something like that.
Okay, so it will tell you right away.
Not right away. No, it does not tell you right away. Okay. Now, if there are different IDs available, you have Kishore. What is the one you're using? VB, right?
Yeah, Visual Code. Visual Code. In the Visual Codes, it will mention. So, like if any missing any brackets, any
it will show you that.
It will show you the red color
sort of a thing. So there are different IDs available. You can use Eclipse, you can use Visual Studio or Visual Code, but I'm showing everything here in Notepad++ only. So if you are not using an ID, then once you put it in Netsuite, and once you try to execute it, you will get an error.
Okay.
But if
Okay.
you're using an ID, you will, I think it will show you then and there itself.
Yeah. In our initial class, right, when we go through this, can you tell me what are the prerequisites for writing the Suite script?
I am
browser.
pretty much I'm pretty much used to Notepad++. So if you are okay with Notepad++, good. Otherwise, can you note down? You can use Eclipse.
Which one was that?
Eclipse. Let me.
Eclipse. Okay.
Yeah, Eclipse. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Eclipse, Notepad++. Okay. Or Visual
then we
Studio.
have Visual
Code.
Visual Code, I think. Yeah, that is the name. And then
one more thing is Sublime.
Oh.
Yes.
What is the other one?
Sublime. SUB.
Can you ping here, Kishore? Yeah, better to ping here on the chat.
Okay. Okay. SUB.
I think Visual Code is best.
Visual Code is the best.
Yeah, Visual Code is best. Shrikant, if you can install Visual Code, that will
and one more thing, in Visual Code, we have to install some extensions for the source script.
Oh.
So for the Notepad++, it's not required anything.
Okay.
Better to kill Notepad++ and Visual Code. Sorry, this
Okay.
one. Subject.
I'll do both of them. The reason I'm asking is, I have to. I'm using my work laptop, so I have to ask my infrastructure guy to load it on my computer. So I don't have admin rights on. Yeah, so that was the reason. So maybe I will try to get both of them, Notepad and Notepad++ and as well as Visual Code.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great.
So this is the general syntax of all three functions and a user event script in like on overall, right? Now, this is one parameter you see in all three functions, right? Script context or context, you can call it anything. So let's say I'm calling it as context or defining it as context. Context, this parameter is basically a snapshot of your current record you're working on. So this one parameter will give you information about your current record, the user who is accessing this record, and role, and I think time and everything, right? So this is basically a snapshot of every information, which is the record that is being accessed, and the user who is accessing it, and their role, record type, everything.
Yeah, can I ask a quick question?
Mm-hmm.
We are writing this code, but on which form, let's say if we have to execute this on the sales order form, how do you define that here?
No, you don't have to define it here. That is the part which comes when you put the script in Netsuite. So what happens is we have written a JavaScript here, right?
Okay.
So now when you've written the entire logic, you save it as .js file. Okay.
Okay.
.js. You save it as .js, and then next step is to go to Netsuite and then create a script record and then deployment. I'll talk about that once we
sure.
Yeah, once we talk about all three functions. Okay.
Now, sure.
Yeah. Now you I'm sure you are clear about these three functions and this parameter. Now let me take a very small example of for the before load, right?
So one more time, what is that parameter used for the context? It has to be always context?
No, so there are two names people use it, or two names you can use it. Either you call it as a script context or context. Anything is fine.
So what is that? What does it do?
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, right? So context, this parameter is sort of a snapshot of the current action which is happening. Let's say if I go and deploy the script for sales order, right? Now, when you try and open a new sales order or edit an existing sales order, this parameter will have a complete snapshot of it. When I say snapshot, it will tell you what record you are accessing right now, what the user who is accessing it right now, what is user's role, what is the record type, what is record ID, every single thing. So it will take a complete snapshot of the record, the user type and everything. And this is a similar parameter which is there in client script also, but I'll talk about it in our additional sessions.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. Now let's say I want to access the record which we are accessing right now, or let's say the sales order. So what you need to do, you call it as context dot. This is called current record or new record. Yeah, new record. In client script is called current record. So what it does now, using this context parameter dot new record, it will give us the complete record object which we are accessing right now. Record as in this particular. Let's say I've deployed it on sales order and I'm trying to create this record sales order here. So as soon as this record or this form is loaded, it will take a complete object and this will be captured here under new record. So context.new record will give us a complete object
snapshot of everything which is loaded here. Okay.
Correct. Right. So and now using that record, we can get information about everything. So you can say record.id, it will give us record internal ID. Let's say where type will give us record.type. So now to understand these additional things, let me, Kishore, this is for you also. I think you were asking, you were asking these questions, right? In the earlier session.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me open an additional this module. So Shrikant, you're familiar with any programming language. So we generally call it as library, right? So any programming language, there are a lot of libraries available, and then libraries have some sort of additional or already defined piece of logic and code, right? So similarly, in NetSuite, the entire NetSuite in Suite script, all the all the APIs I mentioned, right? We use APIs for everything. So all the APIs are clubbed based on their usage and have has been defined as a module. So there are n number of modules available in NetSuite or in Suite script, and then on every module has set of APIs available. So we have all these modules you can see here under Suite script API reference. We have all these modules, and the naming convention is n/ and then module name. So you have n/action and auth. So similarly, we have n/record module, or we call it in general, we call it record module, right? Now under record module, we have couple of APIs, or we call it module members. So there are a lot of APIs available. Now what I was using there is under record.record, we have, where are the modules? Okay, 1 second. We have record.type. This is the one I have used there. Then we have record.id. We have record.column. So all these, all these module members and methods are available. So these are the ones I'm using here. So under record module, we have this record.id, which will give us the internal ID of record. And then we have record.type. This will give us the record type. So if we are accessing sales order, this record.type will give us sales order.
Okay. And one, I got your point. So for accessing it means like a type of sales order. Suppose if you're accessing any purchase order, this will take the type as a purchase order, right?
Correct. Whatever record type you're accessing right now, it could be sales order, purchase, or any transaction. Or if you are accessing any master data, could it be item, customer, vendors.
Okay, that all comes under types.
Correct. So you have record.type will give you all that information. Okay. So with record.id, we'll get the ID, and then with record.type,
ID means the URL ID.
No, ID means again, We have, Kishore, I mentioned, right? We have a unique identifier in NetSuite, or we can call it as primary key, which is internal ID. So
Yes.
every entry or every record which you create in NetSuite will have a unique identifier, and that will be auto-generated by NetSuite. That is called internal ID. So
Yes,
this
yes.
ID, record.id, will give us record internal ID.
So this ID is for sales order. It is the record ID will be the same.
Sorry, say that again, Srikanth.
For sales order screen, the record ID will be the same.
No. So that is so this is a new entity I'm creating. So you don't have an ID already generated. As soon as you save it, NetSuite will generate an ID. Let me open an existing sales order.
Oh, okay. So
every entry, we are saying every entry you create in NetSuite will have a unique ID.
Oh, that's so okay. So
That's
unique
like
ID
primary key,
for
right?
that record.
Unique
For
key.
that record. For that transaction record. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
So let's say if I open this sales order.
But why the identifier? Because sales order number is identifier, right?
No, sales order number is not unique. You can keep any you can put any sales order number you want. That is not a unique field.
Oh, it is not a unique field. Then
No,
how do you track it?
What people generally follow is NetSuite has this concept of auto-generated numbers. Okay, so in any transaction, what people enable that auto-generated numbers, so that every new record or every new entry which comes, it will be a new sequence basically. So that way it becomes unique, but it does not need to be unique. It can be duplicate. Now that is the reason we have this primary key, which is internal ID. So if you see in the URL, you will see ID equals to this.
Yeah, this is the ID only. Can you take it?
Sorry, Kishore.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is the ID only. Your URL is just
Yes.
some
So
ID.
this is this record's internal ID.
Yes.
Which you
so
see
this
in the
ID
URL.
you can take it. Yes, fine.
So okay. Do you have any ledger for a sales order? I'm just trying to understand just the concept itself. Do you have a sales ledger in NetSuite?
Any sort of
okay, for example, usually in ERPs, in modern ERPs, right? When someone is changing anything on the sales order itself, okay, so let's say the rate field has been changed. Okay, it creates a new record in the sales ledger saying that a rate change has been made, and it has been recorded as a new line within the ledger. So ledger for one sales order.
So in NetSuite we don't have a ledger thing exactly. We have the system in history.
Okay, system history. So
yeah. So if you go on and see on the line level, let's say this is the item and these are all the information. If you scroll towards the extreme right, you have this history.
So, but history would not tell. Looking at the history, it doesn't tell you, who changed it, what time it has been changed.
No, if you see here, it is everything. If you're looking at my
the
screen,
timestamp is there.
Yeah, timestamps, the employee who has the user who has changed it, how it was changed, what is the type, like it is change or a create, and then what field and what was the old value, what is the new value.
Oh, okay. So old value, new value on which field? The fulfill field. Okay, fulfill.
Field name is fulfill.
Okay, what if there are multiple? Okay, there's
this
multiple
has track
also
of everything.
shows,
yeah, there'll be these many entries.
So it doesn't tell you the ID here, but anyways, the ID is on the top on the link.
Okay, so how to get as a developer, I'll tell you how to get. There's another way. URL is the easiest way, obviously. Then there is the easiest way you can get this record XML so that you can get all the unique identifiers. Like similar to this ID, what we see is the record, this entire record ID, right? Now this record. So I'll tell you one additional thing. So this sales order is one single object in NetSuite, right? In Salesforce, if you go, Salesforce has order and order items as two different objects. or two different tables, you can say, on a database terminology, right? In NetSuite, sales order is one single object. You have header and line.
Header and detail. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So you have header and line basically. Now, every line you have on sales order also has a unique identifier that is called line ID.
Correct.
So what you see ID, this is sales order internal ID. And for every line, there is a line unique identifier, which is called line ID. So I'll tell you the ease, and this is something, developers would know, obviously. So if you put in the URL says XML equals to T, it gives you the object XML structure. Did I miss something? Wait. Yeah. So this gives you entire objects XML structure right here. So if I search with, let's say, internal ID, where did it go? So you see on the URL, so you see record, under record, we have record type, which is sales order. ID is equals to this. And then all the field information. So you have actual ship date, this is the value. Then you have all these fields with the internal name of the field. And then if I scroll down, you see line as a separate tag, right? So this is basically a line. Now the line tag will start and every line will have a line ID. You have this ID here.
Okay.
Right. So every line you see here. So if we have, since we have two lines, you see two entries here under line sublist, and every line has a unique ID. So you see this is underscore, that was underscore 1, this is underscore 2. So that's a unique identifier for every line. Right?
Okay.
So this is how the object XML structure looks like. So if there is, what happens when you're working on, scripting, and we generally don't, there are a lot of chances you don't know the one particular field. So there are a lot of fields which you don't see on the form, right? Because form, we have limited number of fields visible. There are a lot of fields we hide on the form. We don't show it on the form. So, but this XML structure will give you all the list of forms which are there on sales order object for that matter. Now, if there's any field we want to use, which is not there on UI, you can come here and get the internal ID information or the internal name information and then use it accordingly.
Okay. This is, so there is no, what you're telling me is there is no line number on the sales order screen when you browse it, you browse the sales order. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So then for the sales order, there where I work, they have more than 100 lines. So how do we know? So it is, you're saying it will be a customization on the screen then, if they have to have a line number shown on the screen.
So see, generally anywhere you go, you will not have this line ID field visible on the screen. That is not even there on the form. If we need to pull out the line information, you can create a search on NetSuite and then get that information. So that field is there on search. It is available for search. We can create a search, get this header line, all the field information you need.
So the search is a saved search.
Yes, saved search basically. Yeah.
Okay.
So we can build a save search and then get all the field information which you might not see here, because form, any organization you go, right? Not all the fields will be visible on the form, because we, based on the business need, we use only certain number of fields, and there are fields on the back end which are, hidden, which are not visible on the form. But you can create a search and get that field information, or we can get the XML and then get that information.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, this is good.
Okay, so now I was talking about this before load function, right? So these are general, these are general I would say APIs which can be used across all three functions. So we get the record object, we get ID and everything using this, right? Now in before load, what we need before load for, or what we use before load for, is to, as I mentioned earlier, right? If you want to initialize some field values, if you want to change the display type of some field value. Let's say if I want to, whenever a user creates or edits an existing sales order for that matter, I want to grade out this particular field, let's say memo. I don't want the user to enter this field value. It should not be editable. So we can change the display type so that this is not editable for any particular user. That also we can define based on the role. Let's say if admin is creating an order, you can allow this. But if anybody who is not admin is creating a sales order or editing a sales order, you just disable this particular field display type.
Sure. So I have a hard stop
now, right?
So very quick, does NetSuite expose their code? Let's say the vanilla sales order screen, the form. Do they expose that code so that we can use that code and change it, or how does it work?
No, we use that code. I mean, you have this page XML.
Correct.
You're asking about the source code?
Correct. That's right.
No. You for making any changes in any record in NetSuite, we have to go by scripting only.
So let's say on this form, right, on a sales order form, if you have to change any properties of a field, can we change the properties of a field?
You can change properties of a field which is a custom field. We cannot change anything on a standard field.
So you have yeah, that's okay. Yeah, but in other modern ERPs, right? I don't know. I mean, I'm not familiar with the cloud platform, but usually, on the
when you say properties, as in like data type or the field size or
obviously you cannot change the data type. Everything will change, or nothing will work.
You're talking about the label, field name.
Yeah, field name you can change it, right?
Correct. Yeah, field name we can change. We can put a different label.
But then if you have to change the properties of a search criteria within not the search, saved search. Let's say the validation on one of the field can have to be changed. So how do we change the validation of a field instead of pointing to?
No, we can put additional validation, but we cannot remove an existing validation. Let's say if I create a sales order and customer is mandatory.
So whatever is there in existing, you cannot change it.
Correct. If there is something which is mandatory, you have to populate it. But if we want to put an additional validation, let's say if I want memo also to be mandatory, that you can do through scripting. So
at least can we view the code, what they have written?
No, we cannot. That's what I'm saying. The source code is not accessible, but we can we can build any customization. We can change anything on the transaction using scripting or SOAP or REST APIs through middleware or anything. But
so if you have to copy that form, sorry, I'm talking while you're, but
we can create our own forms. We can create a custom form. We can move things here and there. We can.
Yeah, and I understand we can create a custom form, but can we copy the sales order screen or a form to a custom form?
Yes, that's what so every single record what you have in NetSuite comes with a standard form, right? So if I am working on a sales order, by default NetSuite will have a standard sales order form. That is the name. Now you can customize the standard sales order form. There's a customize button. You customize it. It will show you all the exact same layout, what is there on the standard. And if we want to make any changes, we can do that.
Okay. So, okay. We will talk more on it and still have some doubts on that one. But, Akhil.
No, the source code part, honestly, it is not accessible. Even if you want to, access the NetSuite database, we can, we can only query. We cannot do insert update using any SQL statement. We can just do a select statement.
Sure. That I got it.